Today on Locked On Red Wings, Kane scores, but Detroit loses Dylan Larkin in a scary accident during an emotional loss to the Senators.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scott is host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. On today's episode, guys, just to give you a quick rundown of what we're going to do. Obviously, we have a game preview in segment 3. They're going to play Dallas tonight by the time you're listening to this. But the bulk of this episode, I feel like, is going to be talking about a few key plays of that game against the Senators. Because in regards to the game itself, you had 9 forwards, 8 forwards at point. There's really not a lot to talk about. It's an uphill battle trying to win that hockey game. In that type of situation, but there's just obviously some key moments that we are going to talk about, Scotty. And, I think the most important thing for us to lead off with is talking about the scary situation with Dylan Larkin and then the subsequent follow-up by David Perron.
100%. Yeah. I would call it terrifying. It was very, very scary there. Just seeing a scrum in front of the net and then just seeing like no movement, face down, Dylan Larkin. Yeah, man. I mean, obviously a lot of repercussions have come from it. Like the ripple effect around that has been a league-wide discussion. There's a lot in regards to intent and NHL player safety and Perron's retaliation, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know where you want to start. I think that really, I feel like this conversation is going to sound very similar to the one we ironically just had on Friday, or Thursday, whenever that was, when we were talking about the lack of consistency from the NHL. I don't know anybody who sees what Perron did and in a vacuum doesn't be like, yeah, like he should probably go talk to somebody about it. It's just the lack of consistency on a player that actually did have a terrifying incident on a repeat offender to literally the same player, a repeat offender, not even just like a repeat offender in general, like literally on Larkin specifically, a repeat offender. This is an episode, I know we said it off air too right before. This is an episode I'm very glad we had a day to kind of digest, because I know you and I, much like a lot of the fan base, was pretty fired up. After,
you know me, man. I would have come on here and I would have just been ripping things apart. And then like 20 minutes later, I would have texted you and be like, you don't think I was too emotional, do you? Listen. First of all, the most important thing to say is all scans on Dylan Larkin, reported by Kevin Weeks at least, have come back clear. Nothing is broken. Nothing is sprained, according to Kevin Weeks' report. What happened to Dylan Larkin? There's no timeline for his return. So we can all kind of, not to say breathe a sigh of relief, because he's still hurt and he still got knocked out on the ice and it was terrifying. But to know that there's not anything more added on after the fact, not more bad news coming, is a little bit of a weight off the shoulders of Red Wings fans. And I mean, this cannot happen to a guy who's going through it worst right now. I mean, he just went through a terrible tragedy in his family life, and now he comes out here and he gets knocked out cold in the first few minutes of this hockey game. This keeps happening to Dylan Larkin, where it's right to the neck, and there's just zero discipline by the league and by reffing. I mean, I know there were 2-minute minors given to both Kelly and Joseph, but I don't know why it is just open season on Dylan Larkin's head and neck, and just the league looks at it and goes, yeah, that's a minor, or not any penalty whatsoever. And the crazy thing is he's always on career pace to do something. Like, he was on pace to have like almost a 90-point season when this happened. He's always finding a groove, and some dirty play knocks him out. And I know The stuff with Joseph, right? Like that's frustrating. And I'm trying right now really hard to like say very carefully what I want to say, right? The stuff with Matthew Joseph it sucks. Like this is a guy who's done this to Dylan Larkin multiple times. One thing I'm not sure of, I don't know if Joseph turns around and knows that's Larkin. I don't know if he just turns around and he just hitting the first guy he saw. That doesn't matter though. The point here is Dylan Larkin was hit in the head by two separate players, two separate head and neck contacts, knocked him out cold on the ice. And all they got out of that were minor penalties. And if you're a Detroit Red Wings fan and you're looking at, or if you're a referee rather, and you're looking at these and my problem here is I feel that they ruled this as if this happened in a vacuum. Like each of these instances were separate instances. If this would have happened along the boards and Dylan Larkin just took like a fist to the back of the head and he was perfectly fine, would that have been a minor for roughing? Probably. But the problem is this didn't happen in a vacuum. Two players made head contact or neck contact to Dylan Larkin at the same time, knocking him unconscious. In what universe is that at least not a 5-minute major? If the NHL is parroting so hard that they want to increase player safety, yet for the third time in Dylan Larkin's career, he has been targeted in the head or the neck area, knocking him out of the game, knocking him out clean, like legitimately in this game. And yet they continue to say that's not a big deal. Meanwhile, the inconsistency is crazy. And as far as the David Perron stuff goes, Scotty, I have no qualms with him getting kicked out of that game. What David Perron did was dangerous and unnecessary. Not saying that him going after a guy in response to protecting his captain is unnecessary, but the action he took for that was unnecessary.
And, also it's very fair to point out he went after an innocent party in a vacuum as well. Like,
okay, and see, here's where I'm gonna compare it to a situation Red Wings saw a couple games ago. Remember when Gostisbehere got creamed in the corner and Klim Kostin didn't see it, just heard it, turned around, dropped the gloves on the nearest guy?
Again, I have no issue with Perron standing up for Larkin and just going to like try and whatever.
The way he went about it.
I'm just saying that the optics in the league's eyes of like what he did, like stick to the face of a guy who wasn't a part of the Larkin situation is not going to help his cause. I have no issue with the scrum after and trying to stand up for your captain there. But like, obviously the action he took was extremely aggressive and he's going to get suspended. And I don't think that anybody in the Red Wings organization is going to tell you that that's unfair or unjustified.
No. And I have no problems with David Perron standing up for his teammate. I understand you're seeing red, you turn around, Artem Zub is standing over Dylan Larkin. You think that's the guy who did it to him.
Sure.
It's the way he went about it that was wrong and he has an in-person hearing. As of right now, 4:40 on a Sunday when we're recording this, he has an in-person hearing. And when you're offered an in-person hearing, that means you could be suspended past upwards and above of 6 games.
Right.
I don't know if he gets that many games because David, as far as I'm aware, he doesn't have a history of this. I may be mistaken. Maybe he has a suspension history, but he doesn't strike me as a very physical player in that regard. Yeah. It's just when Klim Kostin saw what had happened to Gostisbehere, had heard it, he dropped the gloves. That's what David Perron should have done. That's the action he should have took. But I understand emotions are riding high. I don't condone the action he took in that moment, but I do not think I'm okay with him standing up for his captain, but not the way he went about it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Deserved of a suspension, but it's just the Larkin stuff drives me nuts. I mean, how do you see a guy get hit in the head from both sides and both those guys get a minor? And that's an instance where the referees made a decision to let this game get out of hand. And fortunately, I don't think that it did because the Red Wings are so dog tired that they couldn't let it get out of hand.
Well, yeah. They were very tired because they're down at that point 3, even at 1.4 forwards. Obviously that's gonna play into it as well. And man, I just there wasn't a ton of until the Christian Fischer fight at the end, there wasn't a ton of retaliation. I feel like that fight should have happened much earlier on if you were going to do it. I thought, and not, I mean, I supported it. Good job, Fish. But like, I feel like that should have happened like way earlier. I don't know, man. It's just while watching this hockey game, I was unbelievably frustrated. And after losing, I wasn't even mad. I was just absolutely deflated.
Yeah.
I was just the wind was taken out of the sails for me. It was a very, very frustrating game, start to finish, with everything that happened.
And I mean, I guess to summarize it, because I know I was probably a little unclear through this segment because I'm still processing my thoughts on this whole situation. But basically, I don't have a problem with them kicking out Perron. I don't have a problem with him having a suspension. I also don't have a problem with Perron standing up for his teammate. I just have a problem with the action that he took in doing so. And as far as the Larkin thing goes, like, you can't give one headshot a 5-minute major and then look past two back-to-back headshots that knocked a player unconscious.
Well, it's just all the criteria that the NHL player safety department says in terms of like what they consider for suspensions. Like, it checks all the boxes. Like it's like it's head, it's back of the head, it's like eyes looking at back of the head, it's repeat offender on the same player. Mm-hmm. Like it literally checks every box, and it just minor for roughing. So
we're going to take a quick break. When we return, I guess we'll continue this conversation, talk about a couple of the other key moments in this hockey game. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, and exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, did you see what happened in the Predators Blue Jackets game earlier on Sunday? The Cousins hit on Goodbranson?
I sure did. I saw, and then the retaliation, obviously, what was that, a period later?
And you want to know why that happened?
Well, the refs, right, it was completely, and like, that's the thing that we talked about, we might have hinted at earlier, was like the game, policing itself, as people like always say, and the retaliations and whatnot. Like, if stuff isn't called, or if stuff isn't called as, like aggressively as people deem fit, then like that's the kind of retaliation, that's the kind of ripple effect that's going to happen. Yeah,
and for those who didn't see it, and you should go check it out, it's crazy. Cousins of the Predators destroyed Goodbranson of the Blue Jackets, just destroyed him from behind. Goodbranson got up, dropped the gloves, tried to fight him. They initially assessed a 5-minute major to Cousins and then rescinded it to a 2-minute minor. Sound familiar? And then a period later, like Scotty said, Cousins was coming down the wing. Goodbranson just dropped the gloves, tackled him, and started beating on him.
Yeah.
And this is the type of situation we are talking about, where the NHL referees decide that they're just going to allow it to be the Wild West, therefore inviting more injuries to the game. If the referees do their jobs, then this type of situation doesn't happen. It's infuriating that the league goes out there and they parrot that they are all in on player safety and they want to protect players. Yet when players get hurt or are put in dangerous situations where they can get hurt, they do the bare minimum, if anything at all, to players. I'm just so incredibly frustrated, Scotty, that yet again, Dylan Larkin is hit to the head or hit in the neck and nothing. Jamie Benn, Matthew Joseph, and now Matthew Joseph again. It just gets really old, really frustrating that these plays keep happening and the NHL doesn't do anything to protect its players. And it's also frustrating the NHLPA doesn't do anything to protect its players. Like, that's actually the union's job. The union's job is to raise issue with these types of situations, and they haven't been doing it. I'm not going to come out here and defend what David Perron did. I'm not. but it's just because
we
the
have
action,
been doing.
I have no problem with him standing up for his teammate. I have a problem with the way he did it. That's clear cut. He's going to get suspended and he's going to deserve the suspension. But just the fact that so frustrated. I'm beating a dead horse now. We need to move on. I'm sorry, Scotty. Anyways, for a brief moment, a shining, beautiful moment, I thought the Red Wings were going to win this hockey game. Right after they finally got back to playing the game, Red Wings are on a power play. Patrick Kane gets a feed from Alex DeBrincat and absolutely rifles it home for his first goal as a Red Wing. Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat looked good all game. 8 forwards, and Patrick Kane in his second game back after hip resurfacing surgery looked dangerous, and he and DeBrincat continue to build that chemistry. I'm really happy for Patrick Kane. I thought that was going to be, who better to lead the Red Wings to a comeback victory after you lost your captain than a 3-time Stanley Cup winner, Hart Trophy winner, future Hall of Famer, comeback story, veteran in Patrick Kane, right? Like in that brief moment when he scored that goal, I was like, this game is ours. But then I remembered that they had 8 forwards, and so that it was going to be an uphill battle. But, I mean, literally, it was a great moment, and that was a shot in the arm the team needed. But unfortunately, again, and this is why I'm not going to harp too hard on the Red Wings for losing 5-1. 8 forwards, it's near impossible to win a game like that.
Correct. I agree with everything you said. Obviously, the Kane moment was really, really cool. He almost had another one earlier too, right? That he just couldn't lift the puck there on that pass from DeBrincat a few minutes earlier. So I'm glad that he finally got that off his back. He's gonna be able to hopefully with a little bit of lighter shoulders now feel a little more comfortable out there. I thought he looked really good in this game. I thought he looked phenomenal. Again, clearly he's just not as fast on the skates as he used to be, but he is still everything with just decision making and passing decisions, and they're so clean and so crisp and just smart. Even if it's not the decisions he makes are just the right decisions. It's really impressive to watch him out there. He's still got great puck handling skills. He is still. He still has some left in the tank.
Did you see him even back check and lift that stick and take that?
Yeah, man, away? It was funny. He was laughing about it on the bench, and the broadcast was like, "Who says Patrick Kane can't play defense?" Yeah. So yeah, man, I think he looked really good. I think that if he played a solid minute more than he did than is on game 1 as well, minute and a half more than he did before. So I'm glad to see him continue to kind of quote unquote ease back into it. But yeah, it was great to see him look the way he did, and I hope that it's a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I mean, behind Alex DeBrincat, who had 15 minutes, he had the most ice time as a forward at 5-on-5. They're not easing him back in. They're basically okay, Patrick Kane, sorry, but now we need you. This was a game where they're
have 9 forwards, dude. Sorry.
Right. Sorry, you're not going to get any breaks in this game. But I will say, I mean, his acceleration, obviously isn't that great. But again, 35 years old, coming off hip resurfacing surgery, second game back, that's going to take time. But his top speed,
I have no issue with it.
He came flying through the neutral zone a couple times. He's clearly every single game he plays and how good he looks in that offensive zone, skating through the neutral zone. I'm more and more. I'm he might be the exception to the rule. 2 games.
He looks dangerous.
He looks dangerous. I also thought Jake Wollman, after having a bad game, Jake Wollman went from being the 7th D-man coming into this game, 7th D-man in air quotes, to playing the most ice time at 5-on-5 out of any defenseman. And he paired most of the time with Moritz Seider yet again. That pair gets back together. He and Seider, all things considered, look great. And then Ben Sherratt. Who is this Ben Sherratt that we've been seeing? And we've been kind of downplaying a little bit in recent games, because we've been hurt before, right? We've been hurt before by Ben Sherratt having a good game here and there. And we talk about how his usage gets a lot of the offensive zone faceoffs. Jake Wollman and Moritz Seider getting almost all of the defensive zone faceoffs, it seems. And also just the block shots, but not necessarily preventing the zone entries. You weight the importance of each of those. But I got to admit, in recent games, he's been looking really good. And in this game in particular, when the team was down as many players as they were, Ben Sherratt an expected goals for percentage of 52.6 and relative 9% to his teammates. He's stepping up in the offensive zone. He's making plays. Who is this Ben Sherratt? I'm going to give him his credit. He's been good the last few games.
Yeah, he has. Absolutely. This is like 3 or 4 games running now where I think he's looked pretty darn good. So,
Also, Joe Veleno stepping up in a big way. This team down without JT Compher, without Dylan Larkin, Joe Veleno becomes your 1C. And I thought he laid it all out on the ice, man. Obviously, he didn't have like the best game in the world, but expected, like, he had a 60%, 67% share at expected goals for percentage, the second best on the team. He generated a 1.01 expected goals for his line when he was on the ice. The team generated rather 1.1 expected goals at 5-on-5 and only had half a goal against expected at 5-on-5.
yeah.
Second best player on the team right behind Jake Wallman, 39% relative. He just continues every single game to build on that confidence, get faster through the neutral zone, use his legs to drive plays, which is what Derek Lewin wanted from him on a centering a line between DeBrincat and Patrick Kane, is get up ahead of the play and create space for Patrick Kane to do Patrick Kane things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I again, like, you were just really on the short end of the stick here, man. Like, you really, this was going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But I think all things considered, it's hard to look at a 4-1 game and be like, hey, I thought, I'm not going to say they looked good. It's just like, that's a heck of an uphill battle, especially given how it all broke down.
Absolutely. We're going to take another quick reprieve, and when we come back, we're going to do segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings, talk about the Alex Lyon situation, as well as preview the game against the Dallas Stars. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Patrick Kane could come out here and end up being point per game the rest of the way. Nothing's impossible as the Red Wings continue their journey towards another Stanley Cup. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Kane, DeBrincat, or Raymond will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Red Wings fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. The last thing I want to get to as far as this game in particular goes is Alex Lyon getting pulled after the second period. And because you already mentioned, Christian Fischer stepping up, and I agree with you. Like, I would have loved to see that happen earlier in the hockey game. And also, in the end, I still am happy that he did it. And Matthew Joseph, he answered the bell. He got a fight. Fisher got a few licks in. So it was kind of something that just needed to happen to get the nasty taste out of the mouth, even though it really didn't. I still had that gross feeling. But it needed to happen way earlier. But I'm glad that
2 periods earlier. Yeah,
I'm just glad that it did happen because Kostin didn't play because he was sick. So somebody had to step up and be that guy. It should have happened earlier, but
it's like the worst timing ever.
Right. Props to Fisher for doing it regardless. Alex Lyon got pulled in this hockey game, Scotty. He wasn't great. He finally came back down to earth. We knew it was going to happen. He wasn't going to maintain a .957 save percentage throughout the rest of the season. At least
softies, man.
Couple of softies. The one against Vladimir Tarasenko on the Sens power play off the Phantom. Michael Rasmussen high sticking. Just absolutely more abysmal reffing. That stick never hit him in the face. The ref was behind the play, and the player it happened against sold it. Stick never even hit him. It was crazy. But anyways, Vladimir Tarasenko just took a one-timer, never left the ice, and it just got underneath Alex Lyon's pad. And then the Dominic Kubalik one, he didn't get over in time. It was weird. Like, it almost looked like he dug in weird when he went to lateral and just didn't make it over. And then the Stutzla one, not really a ton of blame, really. He didn't play it well, but it was also, why did Stutzla get behind the Red Wings defense so easily? Why did the Red Wings turn it over at the top of the defensive zone? But they decided to pull him at the start of the third. At first, Scotty, I was like, wow, they're going to pull Lyon, but after a bad game, but they're not going to pull Husso. But I think I get it in hindsight,
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I guess. I like my reaction to that was like, okay, I that was I think I texted you when we were talking about it during the game. I
I
was
think
like,
you just said LOL.
yeah, but I think I was like, that's like ninth on the list of reasons as to like why we're in
Oh,
this situation.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like pulling like, okay, like sure, if that's what you think you want to do, and you think that that's what's going to help this situation, I guess go for it. But that was not even in the top 5 reasons as to why we ended up in the situation we were in. Like Lyon, did he have a great game? No, but uh, Lyon's nowhere near the top of the list of the reasons as to why we were down 4-0.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I'm not trying to blame Lyon whatsoever. He had a soft game. Honestly, I think this is because Lyon was rattled more than anyone on the ice in terms
Sure.
of what had happened. Because, and like, we don't mean to, that's the thing too, is like what happened to Larkin was legitimately terrifying.
Yeah.
When he didn't move for a solid 30 seconds, there was a part of my brain that was like, did the worst just happen?
Yeah, of course.
Because
Yeah.
he just wasn't moving. Thankfully, he was able to leave mostly under his own power. He was helped, but he didn't have to be stretchered off. So it makes sense that players would get rattled. Players would get pissed. And so, yeah, Lyon had a bad game, but it's not like the reason the Red Wings lost. They had 9 forwards, 8 forwards at time. They were gassed. That's why at the end of the game, I tweeted, I'm like, this whole game doesn't matter. This loss doesn't matter. What matters now is Larkin's health.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't really get about this, because I understand you pull Lyon because Lyon couldn't make some saves on like low danger shots or medium danger shots. Whereas at least with Husso the game prior, all those were high danger opportunities for the Sharks. It would have been great if he could have made one clutch save, and he didn't. All 4 of those opportunities went in, but they were high danger opportunities from the Wings just blowing coverage, letting these guys come right in on him. But that wasn't the reason that Derek Lalonde gave in post game. He didn't say it was, well, we didn't like what we saw to Lyon. He let in a couple of ones that we think he should have had. He said that his reasoning for putting Reimer into the third was because he wanted Reimer to get some touches, not because of Lyon's performance. And that was a really weird reasoning to me, because it almost comes across to me
Like when you pull the starters in a football game when you're down like 40.
right.
Like
But
that's what it felt. That's what and like that. Maybe that's not what he meant, but
that's what it felt like.
that's my interpretation. That's our interpretation of a quote. Not trying to put thoughts or words into Lalonde's mouth there, but like that's certainly what it came across as to us. Like that was.
And like you're down 4-1, which is a pretty big deficit. Yeah. And you look at your bench and things look bleak, but, and again, that's just our interpretation of it, right? Like that's
again,
what
like
came across to us, but
an episode ago, I said that I wanted to get all 3 goalies opportunity. And like, I guess that's one way to do it, I guess. But you know what I mean? But like, I don't know. This is, however you feel about it, fine. Like this is so not on like the forefront of my brain when I think about this hockey game. Like I'm not going to remember this game and be like, oh, remember the goalie situation that night?
You're
like
right.
that's, you know what I mean? Like that's like, sure, man. There's 8 other things at least that are ahead of this.
Yeah. So, I mean, all in all, 8 forwards, 9 forwards. I thought the Red Wings showed heart and hustle. Obviously the score doesn't show it, but they did the best they could with what they had. And the thoughts are obviously that entire game with Dylan Larkin as he continues his recovery. And we hope here in Locked On Red Wings that he is okay. But Scotty, that leaves a big hole for the Red Wings going into Dallas on Monday night. The Red Wings will be obviously without Dylan Larkin. I foresee a David Perron suspension, probably at least 2 games, probably more in all reality. I would suspect, honestly, somewhere between 4 and 6 games is what David Perron's going to get. If you're asking me,
I think it's going to be, like 5, give or take a game.
Yeah. So the Red Wings are down forwards. And if JT Compher's still hurt and Klim Kostin is still sick, as that's going around the locker room, Derek Lalonde needed cough drops during the post-game press conference. Everyone is sick right now. So there's a lot of holes in that lineup that was so deep just 2 games ago. And the Grand Rapids Griffins played on Sunday, and there were players not in the lineup named Jonathan Berggren and Austin Czarnik as they made roster moves with the Walleye to fill their holes as a preemptive move before call-ups are made. And it sounds like it's going to be at least Czarnik and Berggren because for sure you have 2 holes in that lineup with Larkin and Perron out.
Yeah, this is why I continuously tell people every offseason that too much depth is not a problem and you are not blocking anybody in an NHL lineup. This is why, because you can lose 3 to 4 forwards in 24 hours. That is the game of hockey. That is why, I never cared about like Berggren not getting a spot on opening night and like, oh, they signed a bunch of people and they blocked him. Like, here we go. Like that immediately that four forwards evaporated in a span of a weekend. Like that is why it's never a bad thing to have depth. And it's something that I am glad that was a priority this summer. Yeah, man, I have no clue what these lines are going to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, if Comfort's out, Veleno's your 1C. I'm relatively confident in that. If he's not out, then Comfort's your 1C, Veleno's your 2C, Kopp's your 3C.
Rasmussen or Fisher.
And I would imagine Fisher is your 4.
Or you call up Zarnik and that's your 4C.
Sure. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. This sucks, and I hate it.
It's a downer of an episode, and again, I'm really glad that we had a whole day to digest it, because
the Stars are also a good freaking hockey team, man. Like,
listen,
this team is 15-8-3. The Wings are 14-8-4. So you're around a game from them. Like, this is a good offense. This is one of the better special teams units in the entire NHL, 8th in power play, 4th in penalty kill. We know obviously goaltending around the NHL is down, but like Ottinger can, snap of a fingers can be something on any given night. This is an offense that has the ability to put up a lot of goals, right? Like we I don't know, man. Like I love watching Robertson play. I think he's one of the premier like young talents in this league. This is just like your last 2 losses going into this game against a good team that I'm pretty sure you and I have in the Stanley Cup, according to our preseason predictions, by the way, like a really good hockey team. This is a game in which your last 2 have been the most deflating loss of the season to arguably your biggest rival, if you want to call it that, with your captain getting like very scarily injured. And then the game before was blowing a 4-0 lead in half a period to the worst team in the NHL. And now you have to go out there and go on the road against one of the best teams in I was going to say in the NHL, and then I was going to take it back. But
no, you're right. They are one of the best teams in the NHL.
This is one of the better teams in the league. And
they are.
That is what you're riding in on. That's the horse you're riding in on, is those last 2 hockey games. Like, this blows. Like that's my take of this entire thing, right? Like we talked about like the intricacies and the ins and outs of like we don't support what Perron did, like Larkin and the Matthews situation, and like we talk about all of this. The TLDR is just like, this blows. Like, this sucks. No, like, this is just the worst. That's how I feel. That's 35 minutes wrapped up into one sentence. This sucks.
Scotty, the way I'll frame this, just because, and understandably so, you're frustrated right now. It's a bummer. Listen, if the Sharks can make a comeback on a 4-0 deficit and beat the Red Wings in overtime, the Red Wings with decimated forward depth can upset the Dallas Stars. This is the NHL, man. Like any given game. It's the game of hockey. And yes, the Dallas Stars, top 10 in both power play and penalty kill. Top 10 in Corsi for percentage. They're 10th at 5-on-5 shot attempts, and they're 5th at quality shot attempts at 5-on-5. They are a well-rounded, complete hockey team. But just how people don't think the San Jose Sharks should ever win a hockey game, well, guess what? They're winning hockey games. This is where we find out what the Red Wings are made of. This is where we find out if the culture that Derek Lalonde is building is gluing. This is where we find out who's going to step up and be the next big player for the Detroit Red Wings. I think we're going to need big games from guys like Lucas Raymond, Patrick Kane, and Alex DeBrincat on the forward core. And defensively, you need Mort Seider, Jake Wallman, and hell, even Ben Sherratt and Jeff Petrie to really step up. Like, this is where we're going to find out who's who. Teams go through adversity every single year. The Red Wings are not exempt from that. We've played
Absolutely.
without Dylan Larkin before. As I mentioned earlier, every single time Dylan Larkin's on pace to break some kind of season record or career personal record, he gets hurt. Not through any fault of his own. This just keeps happening to him. He keeps getting targeted. I don't know why. But the team is forced to play without him every year. And every year we find out who's going to step up. And we're going to find out again. This is the game of hockey, baby. Any team can win any game on any given day. I'm not writing off the Red Wings against the Dallas Stars. It'll be an uphill battle, but who knows? Maybe Jonathan Berggren comes up and he just lights it on fire like he did last year. Maybe Austin Czarnik comes up and he just cements that fourth line. Maybe we see Elmer Soderblom or Zach Aston Reese. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, it's a bummer, and the odds are stacked against the Red Wings. But until the game is played, anything's possible.
I agree, brother.
So that'll do it for this episode. Scotty, we got to send it off again. Thoughts, prayers, well wishes towards Dylan Larkin as he continues, to recover. Hope he gets back on the ice soon, but not too soon. Hope he takes his time.
Yeah, however much time is, again, we don't know like the extent of everything. We don't exactly know everything, but initial signs look decent. So.
Yes. Any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
I love that Scotty will give me a wee ball even on episodes like this. Be back with a game recap tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.